Thank you, Kare sir. Just one note about the use of any certificate which a person like me may have actually carried out of sheer mugging up of the subject. I think based on the GSM anymore, we could convert that certificate into a beautiful aircraft. Our next speaker today is a biomedical researcher by education. However, he joined Indian Navy as a commissioned officer in 1977 because of his love for outdoor career. He volunteered for naval aviation and did basic flying training at the Air Force Training Center at Bidar, Karnataka. In his 21 years of commission with the Indian Navy, he has served at various locations in India as well as onboard naval warships. He voluntarily retired from the Indian Navy in 1998. He has been a keen aeromodelling enthusiast from his school days and continued pursuing this very hobby throughout the years. After retirement from the Indian Navy, he took up aeromodelling with the greater impetus. He has specialized in indoor ultralight free flight aeromodelling. He is a member of the Aeromodelers Association of India and was instrumental in organization and conduct of the first national indoor aeromodelling competition held in May 2019 at Sonipat, Haryana, where he gave a detailed demonstration and workshop on indoor aeromodelling. He has been appointed as a mentor for National Atal Tinkering Lab. His aim is to foster in young generation the interest in aerospace field and has been conducting presentations, demonstrations, workshops for school, colleges, organizations, institutions, and other groups at various fora and events. Let us welcome with a big round of applause Commander T.R.A. Narayanan to present his topic, International Aeromodelling Classes and their features. Commander Narayanan, the stage is yours.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and the dignitaries of the day. Firstly, I would like to, at the outset, thank my good friend Madhavji for having invited me and given me the privilege and the opportunity to come and speak and be a part of this event. And of course, the BAE Systems, which has been supporting such activities, with our chief guest here, who is present here, and of course the Alerios Club, which is also part of this event, and it's been a great experience interacting with these youngsters, and it perhaps has reduced my mental age by a couple of years. Thank you so much once again for having invited me to be a speaker, and of course for the personal hosting while my stay in Pune is so comfortably looked after. Thank you so much. Before I go into the main topic, just to extend a bit on what Madhavji had spoken about hobbies and its fallout in youngsters. I speak from personal experience. I'll just dwell upon this for a few moments. Because I've had a personal experience in my own life. Because both my sons are homeschooled. I pulled them out of regular school. One was in the 9th standard, the other guy was in the 7th standard. And the first thing I was told by friends, relatives, and everybody is that you've destroyed their future. And that's the end of it. And these were the days, this I'm talking of, now he's 30 years old. At that time he was in the 7th standard, just about 10. And those were the days when homeschooling had not yet come of age, the way it is today. Homeschooling was projected as something for the mentally challenged or for the disabled, and not for somebody who took it as an option for whatever reasons. Today you have all children, especially who are differently talented, like sports children or music or something, who need to pursue that aptitude first, and the academics is secondary, so they do homeschooling. It has undergone that kind of a evolutionary change, I might say. And now homeschooling has become that much more popular among many of the parents, and many are taking it as an option. And so in that sense, both my children went in and did homeschooling. And as for the future, we didn't know. I mean, we were one of the first homeschoolers, you might say. And then we just know, and it all happened because education was coming in the way of my child's expertise. Or rather, school was coming the way, I wouldn't say education. Okay, the 8 hours at school, or 5 hours, or whatever you're spending. And it culminated when he had to go for an exhibition. And then they said, no, he's got to write the, half-yearly exam. So I said, no problem, we give him 0, but he goes for the exhibition, which he's going to present in Bombay. I can't expect, I don't want, if you can't delay the exam, you give him a 0, there's no problem. So the moment the principal saw that this is the, my priority, he backed down and said, okay, let him come back and write the exam. And then he went across in this. And he graduated finally in music. This I'm talking about my second son, who is an origami expert. He graduated in music, Indian classical music, of which he's not even got the parchi, as he said, he's not even got the certificate from the university yet. That's the efficiency of that, university or whatever you might say. But that has not made a difference because today, because of origami and his hobby, he is today giving workshops to IITs, engineering colleges, National Institute of Design, and other places, purely based on his expertise and whatever his aptitudes were. Nobody asked him for a certificate. And as I said, the happiest or the luckiest man is the one whose hobby is the profession. Because you don't have to get up in the morning and say, oh hell, I've got to go to office. Because you're going to do a job which you're not actually cut out for. And that's another thing which, parents need to seriously look at in terms of, you 12th standard, you go for engineering entrance, medical entrance, lawyer entrance, and God knows what are the entrances. But where does the child's aptitude lie? Maybe he wants to be a guitar player or something like that. So it's very important to identify the aptitude and build on that strength rather than do something and then, keep suffering all your life. Because you've got one life to lead, you might as well do it well. Okay, and have a good time. Okay, that is in a nutshell is just a little introduction of my personal experience as to what it was. And I got into aeromodelling as a youngster, and I was, somewhere down the line, I don't know what it was. It's a question of aptitude or whatever you might say, and it just built up on that. And then I got to know Mr. T.R.A. several years back. And then we interacted a lot, and our association grew, and it's culminated in me coming here and standing in front of you and talking. So it's been a long journey. So to come to the topic, I'm talking about the classification. I mean, what I would like to impress upon you in my talk is that aeromodelling has gone places in the West and in other countries. It is still nascent in India for many reasons. Possibly the fact that it was expensive in the initial stages and there was not much awareness and things like that. Today, you have international competitions, etc., at levels which are comparable to the Olympic level in aeromodelling. Okay, and as I go across and show you the presentation, you will realize how keenly contested it is, how much expertise is required. It's not just child's play. It's a serious matter. It's, you got to be as dedicated as an Olympic sprinter to be an aeromodelling expert or an aeromodelling champion. Okay. So let's start with what it is. So as aeromodelling, I mean, the evolution of flight went through lighter than ship, and then balloons, etc., etc. And then finally it came to aircraft. And as the host for the evening said, my special interest is in what is called indoor ultralight free flight aircraft. The aeromodelling world has got so many categories. you cannot be a jack of all, I mean a master of all. You can be a jack of all, but if you want to be a master, you got to specialize. It's as, as intricate as that. So these are some of the models which are made, which are indoor ultralight models. The covering, you can see, the idea is that the ultralight model is weighing less than 5 grams, 10 grams. That's the weight of the model. And it's flying only indoor because you've got to have a space that is totally protected from any currents or draft or any kind of wind force. Okay, so the models you saw, they're covered with what is called a film called mylar, which is basically a polyester film, which is just 1 micron thick. And it weighs nothing. Okay, and so the whole model, the idea is to keep the model as light as possible. And then came the previous one. Then came an aeromodelling, as you see, has got a very long history. It started off on 18th August when Alphonse Pénaud launched his first rubber band powered model. Okay, aeromodelling has started right then in 1871. Okay, it's how many years old, and it flew for a distance of 40 meters when he first did it. So as you can see, aeromodelling is not, and aeromodelling came before real life aircraft came. It was aeromodelling that actually inspired real life aircraft, which is what is the point that I'm trying to make. Next. And when you come to aeromodelling, you've got different types of aircraft. You've got static models, like you see here. You've got chuck gliders, which you chuck by hand, that yellow foam thing which people have been chucking around and gliding. And you've got rubber-powered models. You've got model rockets. You've got RC, radio control models, which was demonstrated here. And you've got helicopters. And in today's world, you've got the quadcopter and the drones, as they say, which is the latest of both the hobby as well as in the real life aircraft. Okay, now this is about the model aircraft. Next. I would like to dwell upon a little upon the organization that, because the topic today is classification of aeromodelling and competitive classification. Just like the way in Olympics you have 100 meters, 200 meters, 400 meters, 1000 meters, etc., etc. You've got various classifications even in the competitive, arena of aeromodelling. And all that is governed by an organization called FAI, Federation Aeronautic International. And as you can see, it's a non-government organization founded in 1905. Okay, just 2 years after Orville Wilbur managed their manned flight and their invention of the aircraft. So the organization which saw the potential of the aviation as such was founded in 1905 in France. France, by the way, has been also the home of the International Olympic Association, which was formed in France itself. Both of them within a year or two. And the FAI is recognized and affiliated to the International Olympic Association and looks after all the aerosports. When I say aerosports, it's not just aeromodelling, it's everything connected to aerosports like skydiving, hang gliding, ballooning, whatever else that there is in aerosports, as you will see. And they have the mission statement. It's a global organization promoting air sports and recreational flying. Okay. And the vision statement, a world where safe participation in air sports and recreational flying is available to everyone. The most important point being at a reasonable cost. One of the things the Chinese may be good or bad or ugly or whatever, but one thing they have done is reduce the cost by virtue of their mass production. So a lot of aeromodelling components, the cost has become affordable because they have managed to produce it in large numbers and give it to the world. As you can see, the Federation Aeronautic, what are the aerosports involved that they govern? Ballooning, gliding, parachuting, aerobatics, hang gliding, microlight, ultralight aircraft flying, model aircraft, which is our concern today, aeromodeling, light aircraft, helicopter flying, and space world records. Okay, so this is the entire gamut of what the Federation Aeronautic International governs worldwide in terms of air sports. Next. Let's have some FAI statistics. They've got more than 110 members worldwide. They conduct regional events, about 700 events every year. And there are continental world championships, just like you have Olympics. Every 2 years, you have a Federation Aeronautic International World Championship. I think 2 years back, it was held in Dubai. And the next one is going to be in USA, I think in Indiana, in one of the places. They have ratified, and they also ratify the world records. If you are a 100 meters world record holder, the Olympic Association is ratifying your record. So the FAI ratifies your world record. So they have ratified 18,000 records since 1905. Various categories: the longest distance flown, the first person who crossed the Atlantic in a powered aircraft, right to Yuri Gagarin, who went first into space. That record is ratified by the Federation Aeronautic International. And many aviation and space exploration firsts, as this says. Okay. Let's come to a little bit more technical thing in terms of, you can see how detailed or rather, what are the various ways in which you can indulge yourself in aeromodeling. It's not just about one, RC aircraft or chuck glider or something. There's a whole host of classifications. Okay, you got free flight model aircraft which come under the F category, F1 category. Okay, you've got F1A, F1B, F1C, F1D, all this whole lot. Gliders, model aircraft, power model aircraft, indoor model aircraft, gliders, hand-launched indoor gliders, power model aircraft, etc., etc. Let's look at just one of them first. I'll give you just a few examples, visual examples, so that you understand what it is all about. Okay, next. Just this classification of what is called the F1D model, indoor free flight, rubber powered model aircraft. Okay, it's an indoor aircraft, it has to fly within that indoor space because it's very light. As you can see the characteristics. It has a wingspan of 500 mm, that is 50 centimeter wingspan, that's about this much. Okay, maximum chord is to 20 mm. About this much, about 3-4 inches. Okay, and maximum tail span, etc. But what is most interesting is what is the minimum weight of the aircraft? An aircraft of this size, this length, the minimum weight allowed, they have a minimum weight, not a maximum weight. Because in this context, the lighter your aircraft, the more is your advantage. The minimum weight is 1.4 grams. It's not even a butterfly. Okay, an aircraft of 55 centimeter wingspan and 40 centimeter fuselage, etc., is weighs 1.4 grams. And the guys who constructed hit the 1.4 grams. It's just 1.0001. Okay, when they go and weigh it before the competition, they achieve that because they know that that weight is critical for their performance. And it has got a rubber band, lubricated rubber band. You saw there, it's a special rubber band which is made by only one company in the entire world, in the whole world, by a US company. It's a special, rubber band that has immense flexibility. And that rubber band is supposed to weigh only 0.4 grams. Okay. And one of the most important things why you must have a hobby is it specifies that the competitor must be also the man who has made the aircraft. You have to be the constructor. You can't tell somebody make the aircraft and I fly it. So you have to make it and then you have to fly it. Okay. And the model shall carry, okay, all that business. And just to give you a little, what do you think is the world? This is the pinnacle of indoor ultralight aeromodeling. And if you can achieve this, you have arrived. And in an aircraft of 1.4 grams, they even managed to put a variable pitch propeller. That means as the tension of the rubber band is reducing, the pitch of the propeller is also reducing so that the duration is increased. And the power and the thrust is maintained, all within 1.4 grams, which I think is an engineering marvel. Okay, and what do you think is the time that is the world record on an aircraft like this? How long it has continuously flown on a loop of rubber, as you saw there, which is wound. The world record is 1 hour, 1 minute, 30 seconds. Continuous flight. Okay. Can you imagine an aircraft with just a rubber band flying for 1 hour? You can let it go, have your lunch and come back, it's still flying. You know, that's the kind of deal. And in the international competitions where this is held, the general flight times of the first 5 competitors is nothing less than 30 minutes. The international record was, of course, set in a special place which had a very high ceiling. But in general international competitions in this class, if you are less than 30 minutes in your duration, you will not be in the first 20. That's the kind of competitive, you might say, atmosphere that exists. It is as good as, the 100-meter dash in the Olympics. Okay, in competition. Okay, next. And here is that model aircraft. This is the F1D. It's made of balsa wood frame. It's got a 1 micron mylar covering, and it's got a variable pitch propeller. You just play it, and you see how it runs.
Launch. This is an FAI World Championship for a classic model airplane called F1D.
There it's okay. It's just further down here where it's turbulent.
It's cool. It's some model airplanes powered by a rubber band.
That gentleman you saw holds the world record 1 hour.
Close to half an hour.
John Kagan.
Models themselves weigh just a little bit.
Okay, you saw this just a little clip I showed you. So, paucity of time. You go on the YouTube and do F1D, you get a whole host of videos which you can see, and how to construct it, designs, etc., about that business. And as you saw, it is rotating so slowly, but still it flies. Okay, that's the marvel of this classification. Next. And here is the other class, which is the F1N. The F category is free flight. It means once you let it go, you've got no control over it. It's not an RC model. It's free flight. You've got to do whatever adjustment you do before you launch it. And this is like a chuck glider. But you watch how he throws it and how it flies. This guy is from Russia. It's an underhand throw. The model goes up in the air, and it's been so tuned that it circles and comes down very slowly. See how shallow the glide is. You see how the sink rate is so slow. That means the rate of descent is so slow because it's been so tuned that it is about, I think, something in the range of 10 grams. And it comes circling slowly down. And as it comes closer to the ground, you realize how slow the sink rate is. And finally lands. Good. This guy got a flight of about 55 seconds or 53 seconds. Let me assure you, if you can go beyond 20 seconds, you're a champion. Okay. 50 seconds is like, enormous in this kind of aircraft. And I think we have managed to get up almost to a minute. So this is the F1N. So this was the F category. F1D, F1B, F1C, all this. There are indoor as well as outdoor categories. So you have indoor, outdoor gliders, etc., etc. If you go on the YouTube and do outdoor gliding, you will find a whole lot of stuff. Okay, so I'm just giving you a very small, dose of what the classifications are. Yeah, next. And this is the indoor free flight rubber powered, and what is called the peanut scale. Okay, that means the models are very slow. It's not a what do you call it, FAI classification, international classification, but it is very contested, especially European Championship and national championships in USA, UK, and other places. A very small aircraft, but flies beautifully. Have a look. It actually takes off, and it goes. It's all on rubber band power. Little peanut-sized aircraft, but it is so aerodynamically perfect that it actually flies. All on rubber band power. Just on rubber band power, it's gone round about 3 or 4 circles and finally lands. Yeah, almost a 3-point landing. Okay. So next, that was indoor peanut scale. You can have outdoor large scale, and this is flying on rubber band power. Please watch. Yeah. It almost looks like a real life aircraft in terms of its size. And all on rubber band power. Wow. Woo. As you can see, it's got much thicker rubber band. It is in many strands and it's braided to give you that kind of power and the tension that you require to keep such a large aircraft in the air. And you can see what it's like. I mean, it's a phenomenal performance. It's refusing to come down. And if something like this gets caught in a thermal, it will literally not come down. It will keep flying forever. So as you can see, the size of the aircraft in terms of right from the peanut scale to this large size outdoor scale. Okay. And finally, I think it comes in for a landing. Whoa! Okay. Next we come to a classification called control line models. The earlier one was free flight. That is, you let it go and then it's free on its own. Now you have control line. That means you have a handle with 2 lines going to the aircraft and you control it and it flies in a circle. And it looks a little, you think, what can you do with that kind of just a control line? But you'll be amazed to see what you can do on a what is called a control line model, which is controlled by the handle and what it does. And you've got different types, different competitions, international competitions. Control line speed, aerobatics, team racing and combat. I'll show you a few video clips which will give you an appreciation of what exactly happens in these contests. Okay. Now this is control line speed. The design of the aircraft is such that it's got a wing only on one side. And it flies at an average speed of 234 mph. Okay, that's the kind of speed it's rotating at. And what they judge is how many laps you can do in a certain in a minute or in 5 minutes or whatever is the time given. Okay, let's have a look. And it's got a post in the center because as the speed increases, yeah, here it's got into the final. Now it's really going at full speed. Okay, I think you'll go dizzy trying to do this. I don't know how you're managing to keep straight. You can't even see the aircraft. It's literally zooming around. And that's it. That's the end of the fuel. So you saw the speed at which it's going, the control that he's got the control line, and it's a speed race. I mean, it's a speed competition. Who can do the maximum number of laps within that given time? The next we have is what is called control line combat. That is, there are two aircraft and they are streaming a ribbon behind it. So you got to control it and fly and cut the other guy's ribbon like your kite flying, or you try to cut the other guy's kite. But you see the kind of control and aerobatics that you need to have to avoid your line getting cut and cut his line. Have a look. Okay, first they go 2 laps, they go around and then the combat starts. And the judge is watching, he says cut on red. There's a red has got, blue has cut the red. Then there's a cut on blue. You can't even see the aircraft. They're all moving around.
Red's down.
Red, and the red aircraft crashes.
Blue is down.
And the blue also crashes. But they can go again. So you've got a second aircraft, jump again. But you've got to put that line onto the second aircraft.
Is F.A.I. F2D.
So this comes into the category of F2D. Okay. So you saw what's happening there. I mean, it's mind-boggling the kind of control they have over this aerobatics to make sure that you don't get your line cut. So you can see the level. What I'm trying to emphasize is the level of expertise that you need to have at these competitions. That is what is important. You've got to super specialize. You can't be jumping among so many things. It will be difficult for you to be an expert in everything. Okay. Next. Now this is control line team racing. That is, 3 people are racing at the same time. And this is like the F1 car racing. The thing goes round and round, and then the fuel is over and there's a pit stop. Just watch what is the speed with which he refuels and lets the model go again. Have a look. That's what this. So, the 3 of them are there, and the judge will be watching to see that one guy doesn't push the other guy. That is a disqualification. Okay. This is an international competition. Okay. Each guy is trying to, because you've got to cover that many laps at that time. Whoever does it fastest. See the control required and the speed involved. It's not easy, I can assure you. Which are the other 2 guys pushing you. Just watch this. Watch the pit stop. When the fuel gets over and he's got to refuel the aircraft, see what he does. How fast he does. Just like the F1 car racing. How they change the tires within 5 seconds and the car is out again. There he's coming for the pit stop. There he's done, refueled and he's off again. Not even 5 seconds. He's got the fuel line in his arm on one side. As he catches the aircraft, refueled, flick the propeller and it's off again. Okay. And this is the kind of aircraft that is used in this kind of, you see the design. See, all these aircraft are specially designed for the category in which they are competing, because you need certain aerodynamic qualities to be able to be efficient in that category. Okay. The next we have radio control aerobatics, RC aircraft. Indoor. Now you come to radio control, like most of these aircraft here, where you have radio control and the aircraft flies, and in this it's also you have aerobatics, you have a whole host of things as you see here. Okay, aerobatic aircraft, indoor aerobatic, large aerobatic aircraft, and radio control helicopters also. You've got radio control helicopters, etc. I'll show you a little clip of one of these radio control aircraft, which is, this is the indoor radio control aerobatics competition, and it's almost like figure skating. They play music and you do the aerobatics to the music. Okay, it's got a lot of aesthetics as well as aerobatics. Okay, let's have a look at that. And you see the kind of aerobatics it does. All within the stadium. There's music actually playing in the background. I think music is not playing, no? But see the kind of aerobatics the aircraft does. So it's almost like figure skating. When you got to time your aerobatics to the music. Okay. Extreme control required within that indoor space for you to do your aerobatics in conjunction with the music and do whatever you're doing. Okay. Next we have radio control pliant racing. Pliant racing, these are all pliant racing means you got three points. So the aircraft goes round and round the points, and who does it within within the shortest time possible, etc. So you've got all these come under F3D category, F3B, multitask gliders, soaring, etc. Slope soaring. Slope soaring is another very interesting thing. I'll show you an example of that. That is, you got no power in the aircraft. You got a radio control with you, where you can control the aircraft, but you are flying only on lift produced by the draft or the thermal, the force of air. There's no power in the aircraft. Okay. And that's called slope soaring, which is a very interesting aspect. Next. So this is a guy who's an expert in slope soaring. You need to have a certain terrain where you have the breeze blowing, especially near the seashore, where you have hills which are close to the seashore, so that you have that kind of updraft created, which gives you the lift that is required to control the aircraft. Yeah, let it go. As you can see, just see it goes. So there's a sea breeze, strong sea breeze blowing, which is keeping the aircraft in the air. And he's controlling it with his radio control. And you need to have a little, you might say, guts to let it go as far out as possible and then come back. Because you got no power. You got to make sure that you keep it in the air and it doesn't lose height. Okay, so he keeps going around and round in circles to maintain the height. So this is a guy from a guy in Cornwall in UK. They've got this kind of terrain where you've got high hills close to the sea, and which gives an ideal draft for the slope soaring. And you can go on the YouTube and see there's this guy called John Woodfield. He's got a channel on YouTube, and you see the fantastic kind of models he has built and how he controls it.
Oh!
So this is called slope soaring, where you are just riding the wave, literally riding the airwaves. You've got no power. It looks easy, but it's not. It requires a lot of expertise.
Mountain.
Yes.
Next, yeah. Take it for fine. And then you have flying scale models, control line, radio control, scale. That is, the models made look like real life aircraft, scale models. Okay. Rubber free flight, indoor rubber scale, etc. F4B, F4D. So as you can see, the classification start from F1, F2, F3, F4, and in each of those F1, F2, there are so many F1B, F1C, F1D. So you can see how super specialized the whole the whole classification is. And there are competitions in each of these classes. Okay. Next. So this is the large scale. We were talking about radio control scale models. These are the large scale models, which are just the way you saw the rubber band powered models. You've got the radio control models, which are large scale. Yeah. You've got even jet scale models which are flying on jets. Okay, these are pretty expensive. I think they would go to about 1 or 2 lakhs each minimum. Made of carbon fiber, made of fiberglass and composite material, and they are like almost like real life aircraft. So this is like you are going into the costlier and higher cost factors in the aeromodelling field, because you crash one of this and 2 lakhs down the drain. Okay. But you've got enthusiasts who are, very actively pursuing this. See, each one has their own, you might say, area of interest. So this is one of them. Yeah, next. And then you have electric powered. And finally you have hot air balloons, airships, and today's world drone, the quadcopters and drones, fixed wing drones, as well as UAVs, etc., as well as the quadcopters, which is very heavily contested nowadays, and which are being used even in when they have engineering colleges have aeromodelling contest. So you have an obstacle course, and you've got to take that quadcopter, and you can see them zooming through that, at very high speeds, and they've got the participants in these drone racing, because that drone is so small and it's zooming at such a speed that the audience is given FPV. You can see it on the virtual screen in your head, and you see the thing going where you feel like you are going with the aircraft. Okay, the participants. The audience. So that's in a nutshell the various categories. Yeah. And then you also got space models. It's rocketry. Okay, model rockets, and they've got various categories of competition of altitude and all sorts of things, the duration, parachute duration, etc., etc. Gyrocopter, I won't go into that because that is not actually aeromodelling. It comes under rocket modeling. Okay, so rocket modeling is another field that is coming up in a big way nowadays. Okay. And this is the model that is there in the contest, Aeroskills contest. And this is a little test flight that I did when I had gone to Jhansi. And you can see the night before my presentation, I just said, let me test the aircraft. And this is that aircraft which you see over there. Okay, it's capable of much more than this if you're doing it outdoors, because you don't have the limitation of height. Okay. So this is just, I've given it about 500 turns on the rubber band, and it takes about 2-3 chakkars and finally lands. Okay. And the next one, this is talked about the national championship that was held in Sonipat in Haryana. And I'll come to that in a little nutshell, because the indoor aeromodelling scene in India is very nascent. There are not many people who are even aware of the various categories and various requirements of this. And when we went for this, it just so happened that I was the only competitor. Okay, so I can't race against myself or do anything against myself. So it became more an awareness campaign than actually a competitive event. But anyway, you take your steps, the baby steps, and you hopefully at some point of time you'll have more competitors and more competition itself. So this was one of the flights of another rubber band powered model, in which I gave a demonstration over there. And it is trimmed to go around in circles, rubber band powered. And as luck would have it, actually it hit the lights, but luckily it didn't get stuck, and it managed to come out. And it flew for about a minute and a half. As you can see, The minute and a half is nowhere near international competition of 30 minutes. Okay. But you can see minute and a half seems like an eternity. So you can imagine 30 minutes, you'll go to sleep, waiting for it to land. And I keep telling people, like for example, the paper plane contest is also there. There's an international paper plane contest. And the world record is 30 seconds or 29 point something seconds. And I keep, doing this little, experiment with the audience that we don't appreciate how long 30 seconds can be. When you're flying, seconds matter. Okay, you don't realize how long 30 seconds is. You tell your friend, I'm coming in 5 minutes, I'm coming in 2 minutes. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, the world can change. Okay, that's the kind of time frame. So just to do a little experiment, I will, on the stopwatch, count 30 seconds. And you'll see how long 30 seconds is for that paper aeroplane to keep flying. He's chucked it and he's flying. Okay, let's just do the little experiment which I always do. Okay, so if you're going to chuck a paper aeroplane and it's going to fly for 30 seconds, you start now. He's chucked it. It's gone to the top and it started circling. It's trimmed to circle and it's going round and round in circles. And I'm watching the clock for 30 seconds. Okay, and it's slowly descending. And it's coming down. There's a Japanese guy who holds the world record today. Earlier, there was a guy who was working for Boeing, who was the record holder for almost 20 years. The Japanese guy broke his record. And he broke it by a few, and now it lands. So you saw how long is 30 seconds. If anyone can make a paper airplane and fly it for even 10 seconds, he would have achieved something really great. 30 seconds is like a hell of a lot of time. Okay. And coming now finally to conclude to the aeromodeling scenario in India as it exists today. It's a nascent field, it's got its own, teething problems. But fortunately, or whatever, the government seems to have recognized that this is something that needs to be promoted. That is aerosports as such. I'm not talking of only aeromodeling. And the government is, there was a ministerial level, meeting where Mr. Rudhi Pratap Singh, I think is the civil aviation minister, and there is going to be, it's going to come out very soon, what is called the NASP, National Air Sports Policy, which is going to come out very soon. It should have been out by now, but it should come out anywhere, where they will regulate the entire air sports scenario in India, which includes not just aeromodeling, but all those hot air ballooning and parasailing, paragliding, etc., etc. So this policy will govern all those activities, because it's not just governing the activities. The government has realized that there's a huge economic potential in this. If you go to places like Turkey, they take you on a ballooning trip, hot air balloon trip, which costs, I think, $80 or the equivalent of about 10,000 bucks. Okay, he takes you for about an hour's flight. Okay, and they are trying to do it in Himachal and other places here. So the tourists go there in droves, they go into the hot air balloon, you take off and you go 1 hour, fly in the balloon and you land, and then they bring you back by bus, all for 10,000 bucks. So there's a huge economic tourist potential, there's a huge employment potential, and a whole cascading effect of all this by promoting air sports. Okay, aeromodeling is only one of them. So because of that, the government is coming out now with what is called a National Air Sports Policy. They asked for comments, etc., from the stakeholders, which was sent to them for them to formulate the policy. And all that was done. And one of the things we said was, either reduce or cut out the customs duty, because getting the stuff is all from abroad. The postage is more than the value of the product at times. And the customs duty added to that, it makes it unaffordable. So the idea is to make it affordable. And if you want to create an ecosystem of people, indigenous manufacturers, you've got to have a pool of buyers. Unless you have a pool of buyers, if there are no buyers, there will be no manufacturers. So it's a, you might say, vicious circle. So that is what is going to be happening. And also in terms of like say indoor aeromodeling, we got so many beautiful indoor stadiums all over India. T.R.A Stadium and Pragati Maidan and God knows what not, all over the place. And we have said that they should allocate time to aeromodeling. Just the way you allocate time for badminton or table tennis or any other indoor sport, you must allocate specific time and not just be ad hoc. For them, for some people who are aeromodelers can come on that particular time, do your flying and go away. Okay. So as I said, there's a huge economic fallout. And of course, we need, there needs to be appreciable amount of corporate support, just the way IPL is supported by, advertised and supported by so many corporates. That because as whatever you may say or do, you need the money to run the show. So there needs to be that kind of course, you need to have an ecosystem that gives the corporate the visibility or whatever in terms of the money they put in and the kind of association they have with the sport. But then unless you build that ecosystem, you're not going to be able to promote the sport itself. Because once people see that there is money in it, from the competitor's point of view, like the way cricketers today, I mean, he plays for one IPL and he can retire for the rest of his life. That's the kind of money he makes, So, that's the potential of sport. And coming to, as Shantanu said, this particular contest that is going on, AeroSkills, I have been actively promoting it, and I'm based in Goa. I'm not from Pune. I've been actively promoting it there, and I think we've got about 25 people. I've been going to various schools, giving presentations and getting people to participate. We've got about 25, 30 participants from Goa. But this contest, I can tell you, is a world record breaker with 160 odd participants in an e-postal contest. Because I'm active on the various Facebook pages, which are interest groups of aeromodelers. There are so many Facebook pages, and we have international e-postal contests in which you hardly get about 10 to 15 people participating. So when Madhavji told me that it's crossed 100, it's crossed so and so, I said I think you must send it to the Guinness Guinness Book of Records, because I think that this is a national. It's not even international, as Shantanu said. If you had made it international, I don't know how many more we've got. Okay, and thanks to BAE Systems, which has been so supportive of this entire initiative, it's really been a real, success story in terms of an aeromodeling competition. Okay, thank you very much.